Sure.
Hello, everyone. So, good morning or good afternoon. Maybe you're enjoying coffee still. Maybe you're getting a lemonade before you join us. But we're really excited to be here with you all. So, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest today, which is the amazing and wonderful Lisa Valentine. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here, and I'm happy to do this. I'm excited.
Well, and we've talked. So sorry, everyone, I'm ruining the illusion that Lisa and I are meeting for the first time. But Lisa and I have chatted, and I do believe it. She is a rarity in this industry because I'm sorry, I have yet to meet another person who understands Orion as deeply as you do.
Well, thank you. And
So
that's setting the bar kind of high for me, Jack.
I'm sorry, I don't. You're so wonderful, and based on the conversations we have, I'm so excited to get everyone's questions in and to have deeper conversations about what you think is
Yeah,
valuable. But before we
absolutely.
jump into that, I do want to give everybody the chance to get to know you like I did. So, Lisa,
Mhm.
would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and about your background and how you became the Queen of Orion?
Absolutely. So this started. I my first job. I was a margin clerk out of college, and back in '99. So I'm aging myself. But so I started out as a margin clerk in '99. I entered the RIA space in 2004, and I was a portfolio operations manager for an aggregator here in town. And what we did, we bought individual firms, we branded some under our name, we let some operate independently. Well, we were using a platform that was not conducive to that. So we went on a search. We did our due diligence. We found Orion. Orion was the winner. So around 2009, 2010, we made the decision to move to Orion. So I converted multiple databases at that time. And if you guys remember what the market was like around that time as well, we had let a lot of staff go. So it was just me. I was in charge of those, multiple conversions. So learned a ton. We finished in 2011. All within that time, I was like, man, if I had known then what I know now, because if you guys see, clearly, if there are participants here who were in Orion, 10 years ago, you know what I'm talking about. It looks entirely different now. But the core functionality, a lot of that stays the same. So what I learned that, God, I wish I had known, right? So that was end of 2011. 2012, my firm decided to move its headquarters from Nashville to Arizona, and I did not want to go. So all within the same week, it's actually almost comical how this happened, because within that same week, Orion reaches out to me and says, "Hey, we have this large hybrid that needs help with their Orion implementation. Would you be willing to work with them on a consulting basis, contract?" I was like, sure, why not? I'm not doing anything. And so perfect timing. I was never without a job. And I moved from, my RIA job to the consulting, and that was 12 and a half years ago. And I have not looked back. This has grown exponentially. It started out with me. Now we have 6 team members, and just have learned a ton. And, one of the things that I think makes us different, and Orion is great. Orion is a technology firm. Okay. Technology. We have the RIA experience and the technology. So a lot of times, there's a team at Orion, the performance team may not know about the reporting, or, if you do something for reporting, how's that going to affect trading? If you talk to those individual team members, they might not know the answer. But for us, we are so fortunate because we have literally been in the industry. We have literally used this. We have literally converted to this. So just the amount of knowledge that we have is um, really exciting, because as we bring in new team members, it's, they have experience that I don't have, which is amazing. So we basically now cover the entire ecosystem of Orion.
That is so cool. Just to
Yeah.
repeat some of the things that you just said. So I know that you mentioned this journey kind of started when you had to vet technologies and you eventually chose Orion. Just curious, how many technologies did you vet? And I know this was this was 10
Yeah,
years ago, but
absolutely.
filtered into.
In detail. So we actually hired a consultant back then, and she looked at 3 different technologies. And Orion was the winner.
Interesting. I'd be curious if any of the attendees, if you're going through the vetting process or you have gone through the vetting process, how many technologies did you look at? And was that because you didn't have the bandwidth, or was that because it's a lot of energy? I totally
Yeah.
understand that, to look at a new technology. So I'm curious, is there a reason why you only looked at 3, or were there only 3 at the market, or was there?
Back then it was, honestly, Advent, from what I remember, Advent was the biggest player at the time.
Yeah.
And at least in our world, at least the ones we were looking at, why 3? I don't know. That's a great question. That's a great question, but I think that times were different then. You had the powerhouse, and then then you had kind of the lesser ones. But I'll tell you what we loved about Orion. Absolutely loved it. And it, companies change as time goes on, but I still love Orion, don't get me wrong. But we loved Eric Clark, we loved Randy, we loved the entire team. It was a family oriented firm, is what it felt like. We know that it was a business, we know that it was large, but it felt so much smaller, and we loved that. And we loved that they were listening to us. We had feedback, and they would say, we don't have that now, but we could do it. That's all we needed, just the willingness to work with us, and they had it in spades. We're really excited.
Lisa, that's a really good question, because I'm curious, anyone who feels like chiming in, feel free to put it in the chat. Why did you choose Orion? Was it the same kind of mentality, or how long have you been with Orion? Or was it a recent switch and you just like it because the tech suite has expanded? Because Lisa, and that's kind of where I was going with this line of questioning, was things have changed a lot in the last years. And it's curious to me that you didn't go with a big player. You went with Orion early on because you saw its potential, or you liked the suite, you liked the people, the orientation.
We liked the willingness for Orion. We liked the willingness that they showed to work with us to develop a product that we wanted. A lot of the reports and some of the functionality was built for my firm at the time. And people now, it's, oh, we have the portfolio appraisal, we have this, we have that, but a lot of that came from our firm.
Oh my goodness. So
yeah. I mean, and that's,
wow.
Anybody in the Orion world can see queries, and they see other firms' names on there. The idea is Orion is going to create, and you got to be careful about using those. Pro tip number 1, don't use someone else's custom query, because you have no idea the parameters that were used to build it. So I will say that. But anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent, but
no, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of background about you. I think this is the perfect time to just get into it. I mean, Orion, there's a lot to Orion, obviously. And I love how you just pointed out kind of some things about yourself, as well as the fact that you are part of creating some of the things that other firms are probably benefiting from today.
That happens today. Firms, if a firm wants XYZ and Orion develops it, they're going to give it, they're going to roll it out for everyone. And we loved that. We loved the open architecture. We just, it was a nice change from where we were coming from.
And just to distill this into one kind of sentence, Lisa, your collective knowledge is not just coming from your experience at an RIA working with Orion directly. It's actually that you helped kind of cultivate things that have changed and were groundbreaking for other advisors. That's so cool.
Wow. Thanks, Adam. We didn't know what we were doing at the time.
Hey, but it led here. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
If I was a new user, if I'm someone who's watching today with the hope of learning a little bit more about Orion, could you just distill, what is Orion? What's its mission statement? How would you describe it?
Oh gosh.
or like the tech. I'm not asking you to speak for the company, of course.
Okay, good, because it's evolved a lot over the years. Honestly, that's a great question. I'm not exactly sure how to answer it. What I One of the things that, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, and one of the things that Orion believed in was they wanted to be able to provide. I again, I'm not speaking for Orion, but from my perspective and what I've seen over the last, 5, 8 years, is they want to build a one-stop shop. They want to build a product that you don't have to add on a million different things for in order to run your business. So for a long time, CRM was missing. Then they bought Redtail, which is incredible. That was very exciting. So I'm super excited for you guys, and me, because that means we get to work with you more, by recommending you guys. So they bought, with Brinker, with Hin Levers, with Basis Code, with, gosh, what am I missing? Redtail, but they're buying these and now they're working on integrating them. And I think that's the exciting part. I'm really excited about that. And I love that Orion chose to do that. So mission statement, I don't know, but I'm super excited about what they're doing.
Well, I apologize. I don't think I asked you a very good question. I'm going to change my question. So if I was a user, where would you recommend I focus my attention in Orion if I'm logging in for the first time today?
So it depends. It depends who you are and what your job is. So there are, we kind of, our team has two separate types of training. So if you are an advisor, I would tell you to spend your time in portfolio view, looking at settings, looking at the different cards, creating your own views. A lot of the misconception, I think, is that people have to run reports in order to meet with clients. You don't. Put it on the dashboard, put it in full screen mode, and use the portfolio dashboard. It's interactive. It also, here's a pro tip for you. So when you're in portfolio view, you have the three little dots at the top right. Click on your settings and look at them. Look at what they are. You can, because by default, I think everyone is set to just look at managed. One of the things that Orion has done is it's enabled you to look at managed, unmanaged differently in different areas. You can override. It's a lot of complex settings, but the portfolio view, if you click those three buttons, and there'll be I think it's called unmanaged inclusion. And if you select all accounts, that is one of the only places that you can see everything. So you will see managed and unmanaged together. It's not necessarily going to say unmanaged, but if you want, a lot of people, and whether for good or bad, will show performance for unmanaged assets, or they'll show activity for unmanaged assets. So that's a cool tip. You can see it there. I like it. And then you can select managed. So then you can show the client, well, this is what your portfolio would be together. Well, this is what it would be if it was just managed. If you were paying me to just manage these accounts, which you are, look at how well I'm doing. Oh, wait, but if we take what you have in here, it's a little lower. So things like that. It's exciting. I like to be able to do that.
No, and you make it sound so much easier than I feel like when I've tried to, because I'm definitely a student of tech myself. I am a student on here just like everyone else. And when I've tried to go through some of their individual documents, or even when I've had conversations, sometimes I get lost in sometimes the word stuff that exists around tech. So Lisa, thank you for obviously.
I will say though, for the operation side, you asked a new user, where would you spend your time? For an advisor and client facing, you need to be in portfolio view a lot, look at Orion planning. Advisor, that was the other one I couldn't think of. Orion bought advisor, and that became Orion planning. But, that's where the advisors go. Operations people, portfolio audit. Billing audit. They have the new billing app. I am not using the billing audit app yet because I like to be able to do every single thing that I do in the old. If I can't do everything that I can in the new that I did in the old, I wait for Orion to work on it more. That's just a personal preference. But the new billing app is really cool because of the automated cash flows. So, yeah.
And before I jump in, we do have a question that I think is really relevant right now, but I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on that new feature for those maybe users who.
Oh, the billing audit.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me, the billing app with the cash flows.
Yeah. That sounds
You
really
set parameters, before. So it started out with, whether they were contributions or distributions, there were two different check boxes you had to make. That can get confusing because I think it was like new money ready and already billed or something like that, advanced billed, I can't remember. But so then they flipped it to one checkbox. So, all right, just mark a cash flow, whether it's contributions, distributions, whatever. Then that was too much. So then people were like, well, then I got a subtotal, and now it's automated. You set the parameters that you want, the amounts, the distributions, contributions, whatever it is, and it's automated. And that's going to save people a lot of time.
absolutely. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask because I'm not sure and if you don't know this, that's totally fine. You could probably call Orion and ask them, anyone who's curious. I know that Orion has different levels of access. So my question is, do you know if that's available with all levels of access or paid access, or is it just the top tiers that get access to the billing?
You can enable things on a lot of different levels. I would never enable that on a rep level.
Okay.
You have to be very careful. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great question. And I don't want to have to log in, but because that'd be so cool if I could just share my screen and work in Orion, but I can't because of client data.
We don't want any data getting out here.
No.
We're all about protecting PII.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I asked a question again.
No,
I lost my train of thought. Oh, the levels.
Oh yeah.
So, sorry. I was started thinking about sharing my screen, and I was like, oh, I can share this and that. You have to be very, very careful who you let into the Orion edit world. I would be very, very careful what you let advisors do, because you have an operations staff, and hopefully you have workflows built into Redtail, and you have very specific things that you have to do in a certain order. And that's your job. That's an operations person's job. That's not an advisor's job. An advisor's job is what? Advising clients, talking to your clients. That's what advisors love. I have yet to meet an advisor who loves doing billing or reporting or entering data, So don't require them to do something that they might not know. If you do this, it affects these things over here. Very careful.
Lisa, you make a very good point, and it's a perfect time to time a question. So we did get a question that it's from an anonymous person. So unfortunately, I can't say your name, but thank you for the question, anonymous person. If I already use Redtail as our CRM, what do I need to know about Orion? And before I even let you answer, one thing that I learned as a Redtail employee who had lived in the CRM for 4 years and understood how a CRM worked, the way that Orion works is very different. And whereas Redtail, we want everyone to have access to everything, and it's kind of like a share of knowledge, Orion needs to be locked down in certain places. And I think even if you're coming from Wealthbox as a CRM, the mentality of the CRM is very different than the mentality of the tech stack of Orion. It's going to be more restricted. It needs to be restricted because, just like Lisa said, that operations stuff you don't necessarily want everyone to have access to like you would in Redtail or in Wealthbox.
that's an amazing point. So thank you for saying that. Yeah, because a CRM is what advisors use a lot, because that holds your client information, right? But in Orion, it contains your billing information, and that's how your clients are going to be charged. And if you have an advisor updating a fee schedule to this, and you're like, wait a second, and then you get audited, and then you're looking, they say, all right, well, why did you charge the client this when the client agreement says that? And then you have, oh, well, the advisor changed it because they thought they knew what they were doing. We've had this all the time, all the time. So,
Oh gosh. Okay, then yes, I want to reemphasize that.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Just remember there's going to be a bit of a, I don't really even know how to describe it, like a mentality shift when you go into Orion versus your CRM. But without dwelling on that too much, Lisa, to answer this anonymous attendee's question, if they're already a Redtail user, what do you think they need to know about Orion?
Oh gosh, that's loaded.
I know, because there's a lot.
I would ask, are they coming from a portfolio accounting system? Or are they just are they logging into the custodian? I don't, what would they need to know about Orion? Really, what I talked about in the beginning with what I love about Orion so much is that it has everything that you need in order to do what you need to do. And there are resources available to help you use all of those different things. Whether it's us, whether it's you, there is support. Orion has a great, they have great support teams too. But again, they're a technology company, and they're not always, if someone were to say, well, where should I store my client contract, or where should I store my IPS? That they may not know that, but what is best practice? And I can't answer that with, I can't give you a generic, hey, I would store this here, but because every firm is different depending on the systems that they use. But I would just say it's a one-stop shop. You already know Redtail. And if you are looking for, a robust reporting system, if you're looking for trading, we support. Big addition that we did this year was adding Eclipse support. We have amazing Eclipse consultants now. Eclipse can be a beast. It is incredibly powerful. It does so many different things. But it's also very confusing. And for me, I went through all the training and I still could not tell you how to use it. So we have a whole team for that. So you have, if you are, you're already using Redtail, if you want to use Orion, there's Eclipse. You have tax loss harvesting, custom indexing, anything that you want to do, Orion has. I mean, within reason. I mean, I know somebody's going to say, well, what about XYZ? I don't know. But there are so many things available that you can use, and consultants to help you with it if you need it.
Totally. I would piggyback on that and just, so for those of you who do not know, I did spend most of the last 4 years as a Redtail trainer, and I worked very closely with the Orion Tech consultants, and I know that they are offering training now. So, and they're trying to be better about educating the public and educating their users about how the technology works. So if you are especially a Redtail user, please reach out to their training department. They are excellent at kind of giving you those little tools or if you don't understand something fully, they can send you an article that's specialized in what you're looking for. So that's always a great resource for their help desks too. Lisa, we have another question from Robert it's kind of popping up, and I'd be curious if you'd be willing to show us. So we have a couple people that are curious about the Portfolio View tool, and they're not really sure where to find it. So I was wondering, I mean, is this something that's easy to describe? Could we re-describe it? Or if you're in the system, where is it supposed to be?
Where is it?
Where's the Portfolio View tool if I am in like Orion Connect? Because I imagine
I'm gonna log in right now, but I can't share my screen. So
you can't share your screen.
I can't.
Oh, you can.
No, I cannot.
Oh yeah, I was like, yeah, we want to PII. But Robert
Yeah.
would describe it in detail. Same thing, Brian. I know you had the same question, so we're going to describe it in detail for you.
Yep.
Lisa, just curious. So if you are, I know there are different, along with the different restrictions in Orion, like advisor level and then rep level. I'm curious the pricing models. So I know that they sometimes will include certain features. Is this the portfolio view feature is included on all levels, correct?
Across the board.
Okay.
They have the essentials and they have advantage and the different stacks I think you're probably referring to. This is across the board. This is when you are on your Orion homepage, okay? And under the looking for something box, I'll grab a screenshot of this real quick so that I can show you.
And thank you, Robert and Brian, for submitting your questions about this. Yeah, the portfolio view tool is honestly one of the, in my opinion, one of the coolest things about Orion Connect, because it does just bring everything in one spot for you, which is convenient. Yeah.
So let me, so let's share here.
And then, oh, I can't wait. David asked a really good question too, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But
all right, so this is where you'd find it. So when you log into Orion, this is the homepage. And right under the look, this will have your apps down here, right? This little, it was described today.
That's fair.
It was described to me today as a woman and a baby. A woman and a child. That is the client view. So when you click on that, you can enter a client, you can enter an account, you can enter a registration. That's how you would view that.
Love that. So easy. So to be fair, if you were missing it before, I just want to affirm you and say that I would have missed this too. So not a big deal if you missed it. Thank you in fact, Robert, Brian, thank you so much for asking that so we could go over it.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid of it. You guys have got to use it. Okay, so the portfolio view was the person and the little person right there under the home on the home page. The three dots are going to appear once you click on that and select a client. Then you'll be able to enter some different settings. What would we gain by switching to Orion from Black Diamond? I would have to know more about what you're doing in Black Diamond. What would you gain? Everything that we talked about. We have you have built-in financial planning, robust customized reporting, dashboards. Perfect. So people are asking, what about moving from Tamarack to Orion? So I'm seeing a theme here. Questions asking, what do we gain by moving to Orion? An entire ecosystem that you have that will allow you to serve your clients with one piece. You have Orion, you have the built-in risk, the risk tool, you have financial planning, you have a CRM, you have trading, you have consultants like us that can help you through the entire thing. And this is a pro tip that for those firms that are looking to switch, absolutely, reach out to us. I'll share my contact info at the end. I'd be happy to talk through, because every client situation is different. Every firm's situation is different. But that the common theme is, what would we gain? A lot, but it's hard for me to say that you would get everything, all of the functionality, everything that you expect in the new software in Orion. Has to be able to work for how you run your business. And that's going to take more conversation. I would never say here, oh, switch from A to Orion, it'll be great. I can't tell you that. I would have to ask you a lot more questions than that. And we can absolutely do that, but that's going to require a lot more time than this. But I encourage you, reach out, reach out to some Orion sales guys, ask for some demos, ask for any type of material they have that you can look at, schedule a call with me. Be happy to answer questions, on a more, detailed basis. Yeah.
And Lisa, if I could just back you up there.
Yeah.
I know there was some conversation as well about Circle Black, and then now I love that Tamarack coming up.
Black Diamond.
Oh, Black Diamond. I'm so sorry.
You said, I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, it's unfair how closely related everything is. But yes, yeah. Just to back up what you're saying, when it comes to switching technology, it should never be an overnight decision. It should not be something that you see something cool and you go, we need that now, and we need to throw out what we're using. You vet it, please, and decide if it fits in with your firm. Because I cannot tell you how many offices I've worked with that decide they need a cool piece of technology because it's new, and then it ends up kind of disrupting all of their existing operations. So Lisa's totally right. It's worth getting beyond just the surface level information, having someone ask specific questions, because as a small business, your small business is slightly different from everyone else's small business. And
it is. And I've told firms that I've had clients where I have told them, you do not need Orion. You do not need to move to Orion. Because this is, this happened, gosh, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and Orion was having some issues getting this client fully onboarded. And so they reached out to me and just said, hey, Lisa, can you please, Orion would do that. They would, they would basically pay me to help the implementation process. So that was, kind of a segment of my business of helping Orion. And so I was helping with this client, and they were trying to do something. I'm not going to get into details, but they were trying to do something that I absolutely knew for a fact that they could in the current system, because I used to use the current system, and they were trying to move from that to Orion, but they wanted to do exactly the same thing in Orion. And no amount of me saying, you don't have to do it like that anymore, you can do XYZ. Let me show you how. No amount of me showing her that could change her mind. And so I said, why are you changing? And she said, well, the company, I'm not dropping names, but the company is going to sunset what I'm using. And I said, no, they're not. They're not. And 8 years later, they have not. So so she ended up not moving to Orion.
Wow.
And everyone was happier for it because she didn't need it. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't have a poker face. So, and I'm not for everybody. If you don't want blunt, blunt facts and the truth, I don't know what to tell you.
No, I think that's what we need. We're on a mission to cut out fluff this year, Lisa.
Yeah, no fluff.
We don't have time for fluff anymore. We just need
fluff.
Carolyn asked a great question, and I think you have a perfect answer for this, Lisa. Is there a tool that will show us efficiently how effectively we are using all of the Orion technology? So
that is a great question. They do have Orion utilization statistics in the trends, I believe, in the trends app. I don't have a whole lot of firms using trends. It is not easy to understand, in my opinion. I know that there are some queries you can run for maybe reports used. But as far as utilization of the system and all of the different add-ons, that's a question I can absolutely follow up on. Let me do that, Jack, because I don't know. I don't know, because if you are, are you using the Orion planning? Are you using Orion Risk, or,
So just to simplify the question, maybe, Lisa, there is
yeah.
no tool that Orion has right now that will gauge how well you're using their system.
Well, I I don't think so, other than the Trends app, and I don't think that the Trends app is going to itemize all those different things.
Yes.
But
Okay.
I'll follow up and I'll figure that out. That'll be a takeaway for me.
That would be awesome if there is. I know there's big question for all technology today of like how much of it
Yeah,
we're actually utilizing. And unfortunately,
yeah,
you only know what you know, right? So
yeah,
you don't know
yeah,
what you don't know.
absolutely. And if you schedule a call with us, we have, on our LinkedIn page, you can book 30 minutes. Let's talk to us. And I can say, tell me what you're doing tell me how you're billing, tell me how you're reporting. Are you using XYZ? Do you have a CRM? Are you using Eclipse? That might be a good gauge, but yeah, that there's so many things in Orion and the open architecture and so many things you can do. Um, yeah, just I'll follow up to see the whole thing, but I think, yeah, schedule a call. That's now you got my brain working. That was a great question. And if they don't have it, that would be cool. And if they do have it, I learned something, which is pretty exciting.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. That was an
Yeah,
excellent question.
yeah,
Now, Lisa, just to kind of close out, because I know we only have like 20 minutes left. I
yeah.
know that because you're an expert, there are definitely some specific things in Orion that you might have an opinion on or you might have a best practice for. So I'm curious. Um, Now, I know you and I have talked about underlying data. And before you talk about how important underlying data is, where do you find underlying data? If I'm just a person who maybe doesn't actually, I didn't know before I spoke to you what underlying data was. So would you mind just reiterating to
So
people?
yeah, so for me, when I think of underlying data, I think of the data that's converted. Um, or if you have not converted data and it's the live custodial data feeding, um, that's your foundation. Okay, it's like a house. If that data is not good, then nothing else works. How do you ensure that the data is good? Well, number one, when you do your conversion and implementation, you have got to audit the data. Orion is not going to audit your data for you. Orion will tell you it's 90 to 120 days to convert the data. They are 100% correct. It will. But that does not include doing a performance compare, doing a billing compare you can do at the same time. The performance compare has to come after that 90 to 120 days. You have the historical remainders that you're going to have to deal with. Orion's going to look at your performance outliers. But if you don't do all of that, if you don't compare performance to your old system, then when it comes time to report to your clients, when it comes time for a client to sit with you and you're showing them the cool portfolio view, that I talked about, and you're like, ooh, why is that data wrong? That's not right. This client, look at your data. I had a client who had converted from something to Orion about 3 years ago, but they hired me because they said, we can't use it. It's not good data. It's not good data. It took me one day to find a transaction type that was not mapped correctly. We got Orion to map it correctly. We updated all the transactions, and then they were like, oh my gosh, it's right. So for 3 years, they sat on that when it was one piece of data that could have eliminated the dual systems for 3 years. So you have to audit your data. You have to run parallel, and that takes time. People are in a hurry. And I say you can either do it quick or you can do it right, but you can't have both. So do it right. Take your time. Don't start right before year end, which I had someone want to do, and I said that's not a good idea, and they took exception to that. So that's okay. But yeah, you have got to pay attention to your underlying data. And then you have I get this all the time. Well, that was this and this old set. All they're doing is converting. How can they not match? How hard is it? I'll tell you how hard it is. when you go from a single entry system to a double entry system, when you have the cash sweeps, everything is different. So a buy in this system is going to be a buy and a sell of cash. So you have two. You have to understand how that works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, if you were someone who is not auditing the very at least it just listed, because I think
your data.
2 or 3 things that you can do in Orion that may get overlooked right away. Yeah, wow, this is definitely your
look at those another one. I could go on and on. But this is this is another good trick of how you can audit your data too. Run performance batches. Run them on every single level you can think of. Audit the data. You can add model, you can add benchmarks, you can run it on the asset category level. Make sure all your asset categories are in line. If you've got some 100% in there, those are errors that need to be reviewed before a client sees that, before a client logs into the client portal. So that, every single month you should be running a performance batch. Every single month, well, depending on how often you bill, at least quarterly, you have got to be using the quarter end dashboard and actually looking at the items, not just signing off. You have got to look at them. So, pro tip, use it.
Now,
It's
just
there for a reason.
Of accountability and cleanup. Now, with our CRMs, we recommend that you have some sort of like quarterly cleanup process or a way to maintain dirty data.
Absolutely.
Recommend something similar for Orion.
Yep. Yeah. So that's the quarter end dashboard. I mean, so if someone hires me, we give them customized workflows for documentation and processes for daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. And there are things that you have got to use and things you have got to do within Orion using the different apps to make sure that your data is as clean as possible. Orion is going to do everything that they can do, but they don't know your clients. Okay. They don't know that, wow, this came out as a merge out and it should have been a distribute. Oh, that's another thing. Merge out and distribution are the same thing. Merge in and contribution, they're the same things. It's just a naming convention. We can map them to, different tools, but I don't want people to get caught up on that. It's just a naming convention. It's money in and money out, whether it's stock, whether it's bond, whether it's cash. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm looking at that. I'm going to hide the question so I don't get distracted. I'm going to let you ask.
Christian asked a great question. I would have been totally happy if you would have been like, Christian, this is, or if you were going to say, Christian, this is a great question too. Best app in Orion that is underutilized.
Oh my God. I'm kind of a data person. So, well, not kind of, I am not the kind of person who's going to be sitting in front of a client. Okay. And meaning the end client. All right. I think we all can guess that from here. I'm not going to be doing that. But what people have asked for, and I mentioned at the beginning, the portfolio view. If you are an advisor, portfolio view is incredible. You have got to be using portfolio view. That's not an app, but it is very, very important. I think it has so many, because it has links, and from portfolio view, you can go to portfolio audit. You can link to the client portal. You can link to Orion planning. You can look at transactions. You can look at holdings. You can view performance on different levels. So many things you can do just in the portfolio view. So I love the portfolio view. I'm not in it nearly enough because I'm an operations person. I'm in the data. I like numbers and spreadsheets and, all the boring stuff. But, and so, and everybody, any Orion operations person is going to be in portfolio audit. I mean, that's my, that's probably the most boring app of all of them, but it's my favorite. I do so much in there. I love custom imports too. Love the custom imports, the new custom imports app. I love that. God, I need to bring it up to, let me see if I still have it up. I do. Let's look at all my apps. Okay, you ask questions and then let me see.
Oh, no, I was just going to comment, Lisa, that the portfolio view does seem to come up quite a bit when I do
Yeah.
talk to people, or like even Orion power users.
Yeah.
It seems to be something that I guess not a lot of advisors are utilizing. So if it's not something in your regular routine, I would incorporate it.
I don't think it's necessarily jumping out at you when
That's
you look at
fair.
it.
It's like right here. It was so small when we looked at
I
it.
know.
So hey,
I know.
like I said, don't blame anyone if they missed it before, because I certainly did.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the two people next right under the looking for something when you first log in, right under that looking for something. And if you're not using that looking for something box, you need to. I use it all the time.
So
All the time.
now, Lisa,
You
oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
no. Go.
I just am having a thought, and I wanted to ask you this question while your apps were loading.
Okay.
So I know we asked earlier, is there a tool that will tell you how well you're using Orion? And I don't know, it's just as you're talking about this more. So I know that you are a consultant for Orion, or you are an Orion consultant. You don't work for
Yep.
Orion. But now, if I gave you my Orion, hypothetically, could you go through it and tell me how well I was using it?
Absolutely.
So your firm is kind of a tool, but you're just real people behind it. So you could
Yes.
absolutely diagnose
Yes.
someone and say, hey, you're
And a
not
lot of it, I mean, it's not going to be, you're not going to give me a login and I'm going to be able to go in there and tell you how many
absolutely.
times you looked at portfolio view, but I do database reviews all the time.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
And
So
then people say, I'll say, are you using this? Are you using that? Yes or no?
well, and I want to re-highlight that you said there is nuances with your firm. So it's not like you could just hand it over to someone. Like honestly, you kind of could with your CRM. I used to do that. I used to do audits on
Yeah.
CRMs all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's very straightforward as to what you're using versus what you're not. But in Orion, you're right. It is. What are you prioritizing in your firm?
Yeah.
How are you using the data? How are you inputting the data? What does the data mean to you? So it really
Yeah.
does require more of a conversation. And I would even argue a person instead of just like a machine.
I think, honestly, I think you're right. It probably would require a person just because you are not. So I had a call today where somebody's using the grouping manager. If I asked a firm, are you using the grouping manager? And they said no, but they didn't need the grouping manager. They're still using Orion to the best of their ability because they don't need it, but they're not using all the apps. So it's really hard to say because not everybody needs everything.
Not everybody needs everything. I
Yeah.
love that. Just that's okay to remember, everyone.
Yeah.
I struggle with that too. So maybe this is more
Yeah.
for me. Sorry, everybody that's just watching.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa asked a really good question too. I believe she's following along with us. So she mentioned that in products and prices, she has 138 missing asset classes and 4,700 missing risk categories. How problematic is this, and how would you recommend handling it?
I would ask her if she has auto assign set up. I would ask her if she's even using risk category. I would ask her, I would look at provider assignments. You can update everything in mass within products and prices or a custom import. But I would say using provider assignments and then the assignment override is the best way to classify assets if you don't want to run into that. Equities, mutual funds, you can use Morningstar, group style. But for the bonds and all of that, if you want to use the Orion subtype, a lot of people want to break out bonds into taxable and non-taxable. That becomes a little manual. But I would rather I would rather an end client see municipal bond on a report instead of security, which is what unassigned products come in as, which is automatically defaulted to equity. So I would go ahead, put in the subtype just so at least it'll be fixed income.
Ooh, Lisa. That was such a good answer. Now, we still have a couple of minutes. So, Melissa, if you have something you want to chime in with and you want to get more thoughts from Lisa, please feel free to put in another question or something in the chat. But I think this might be the perfect question to end on before Lisa. I definitely want to give you an opportunity to tell everybody a little bit more about the services that you can provide, because we did just talk so much about what an asset you are and how you help make everyone understand Orion better too.
Absolutely.
This was from an anonymous attendee, but with Orion and Redtail being one company, have they made it easy to access portfolio view within Redtail?
That's a question for you.
So I think so, especially if you have the Orion dashboard enabled on your Redtail. And unfortunately, I no longer have the ability to share this, but I did this in demos constantly. When you are an Orion Connect user, you should be able to have the dashboard on your Redtail today page. So in that today page at the very top where you see all of your other like activity note opportunity dashboards, it should be there. And you have all of the accessibility of Orion Connect from within Redtail. So I do think, there's a couple nuances of things that you have to edit within Connect, I believe, but most things you can change within Redtail. It's pretty cool, including accessing portfolio view. So I do think they made it a lot easier, and I hope that the integrations keep coming, because frankly, that's the future. I completely agree, is having one-stop shop, so I don't and you don't have to think about all of the different things.
And I'll tell you, being in Orion for as long as I have been, so we're what, 14 years?
Yeah.
It's only gotten better.
That's so good to hear.
Like, so the integrations, I'll tell you this, if I go to the Ascent conference, talk to Orion people, ask for what you want, ask for it. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but if they get the same ask from multiple clients, and those are some higher dollar, I mean, hopefully, some high revenue generators for Orion, they will build it, so they listen to people. So go to the conference, talk to people, tell them you want to put in a dev request. I was going to say, talk to other firms and get them to put in the same request. Don't do that. Like, only if they need it. But
not trying to plan a mutiny, don't worry.
Yeah, no, but yeah, you go to the conference, get stuff out of it, and I'll tell you, one of the biggest benefits you will have of going to those conferences is just getting in front of the Orion people. Just get in front of them, get to know them. I've been to every Ascent conference that they have had since we started. I've been to, and they're so much fun. They've gotten so big, they've gotten huge. I can remember being in like just a couple rooms, and I can't even remember what city it was. It was so small, but it was like our first one. It was great. It was great, but anyway.
It has gotten big. As a recent attendee, I can say it's very large now.
Yeah,
but
it is.
We just have a couple of minutes left.
Yeah.
I do want to give you the chance, like I said, to share a little bit about what your firm does, how it can potentially benefit all of you. So Lisa, I know you have Lisa Valentine Consulting. So what does that consist of?
What does this, we do all kinds of things. I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay. I don't want to, is that going to kick you out, Jack?
We are going to hope not.
All right. So let me just,
okay, I'm good.
Can you guys see that? So we have different projects, different ways that we work. We are a team of 6. We have Eclipse Consulting, we have Orion Consulting. This is a big thing, and I really want to stress this offering, because I'm going to give you a success story. We offer the ongoing operational support. We become your Orion back office. We become your operations. We'll do your billing, your reporting, your new account, whatever it is that you guys are doing in the Orion world, we'll do it for you. Let you guys, you want to be able to go on vacation on the 4th of July. You want to be able to go away on New Year's. I remember sitting in an RIA, I couldn't do that. we are going to allow you guys to do that by taking that over for you. So by outsourcing, we saved a company a full-time employee in California.
Okay.
So I had somebody, a previous client, come to me and say, can you guys do our back office while we look to hire someone? I said, absolutely, but don't hire someone yet. Let us do this for about 6 months. And if you still need someone, then hire someone. That was years ago. So the ongoing operational support is huge. Project based, that's kind of where I get my hands dirty. I love figuring out hard problems. I have people on my team love figuring out hard problems. What's your pain point? What do you dread doing in Orion? What's the hardest for you? What do you want to do but you don't know how to do it? You're seeing performance that doesn't look good. Those are the project based. And then we, just some of them. We do a lot. Training, tech stack overview, and then conversions and implementations. We'll take you from start to finish through the implementation process. Do the bill compares for you, do the performance compares, help build your reports. I love building reports in RB3. What am I missing? I know now we're at time. That's my email. That's my website. Love to hear from you guys. I will follow up on the usage.
Lisa, thank you so much for being here today. I feel like that was educational. I learned a lot just about what to prioritize. Like you said, the nuances that people miss, as well as what to prioritize as a brand new user to Orion.
Yeah.
So thank you for making that a bit more clear today. And
absolutely,
like Lisa said, I encourage that you all reach out to her with your questions. There isn't a formal tool that will tell you how much of Orion you're using, but Lisa's better than a tool because she's a person. So
there you go. Problem solved.
Exactly. That should be your slogan, Lisa, because it sounds like you love digging into those hard problems. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I've loved this. This has been fun.
This was fun, and we hope to see you again soon on another Simplicity Ops webinar. But I'm Jack.
I love it.
And I hope y'all have a great rest of your day and make it sparkly. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone.